In today's Leeds news, Wober contract clause, Farke to revisit Buendia offer, Greenwood absence a plus, and Cellino having similar issues to his time at Leeds. Morning folks, Jay here to view on Friday morning the 13th of December, Friday the 13th, the final news video of the week. We will have our match day preview tonight with myself and Andrew Stats Dalton, who's back in the house for this week, and then we will have the warm-up out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. leading into the game against Preston, a very important game away from home from a Leeds away record perspective, and we'll talk a little bit about that towards the back end of the video. There's a bit of stuff to get stuck into on a pretty quiet news day, but there's some interesting stories that I wanted to talk to you about. Massimo Cellino's time at Brescia in Leeds adjacent news towards the back end of this for those that are not interested in it, but a very interesting story that's happening over in Italy. But we'll start today with Max Wober's contract clause that might prevent a move away from the club, and it looks, despite the noise around Max Wober this January, that's likely to happen. The player won't be going anywhere just yet. Last week, Austrian sports news outlet Salzburger Nachrichten released this story that claimed that former side Red Bull Salzburg were keen to bring the defender back to the club in January. In an update today, it appears that the clause in Wober's contract may present a difficulty to make that happen for Red Bull. Journalist Peter Linden says speculations linking Wober with a return to the club are unlikely to happen at this stage, and went on to say that the Red Bull sporting director Rowan Schroeder won't strike an agreement with Leeds United this January. They claim that there is interest in the player, but that Wober's contract situation would harm any chances of a move, and Linden said the following on the situation. In addition, promotion would automatically make his contract more lucrative than it already is. Leeds are currently 1 point behind league leader Sheffield United in second place. Putting everything on Wober as the new defensive leader would be dangerous. Therefore, Schroeder needs a plan B. The Leeds United squad members who were signed by the club during the Premier League campaign or signed new deals while Leeds were in the Premier League are all said to be on a 60% wage cut while Leeds are out of the top flight. So that means an automatic promotion for Leeds United would mean a 60% pay rise, essentially, for these players going back into the Premier League. Max Wober has already talked this year about his desire to play in the Premier League again and there with Leeds United, and that's the issue for them, increasing that wage back to his full salary and then looking for another club to take that on of what is deemed to be Premier League level wages would be a real struggle for most clubs. You'd imagine Red Bull could afford it if they wanted to. You would imagine there's some deal that could be done there between the ownership and the minority owners of Leeds United, but right now it appears that any of the noise around Max Wober currently is likely to be a moot point, because the player doesn't look like he's going anywhere in January, and if he can establish himself as the first choice left back while Junior Firpo is out, it might make the situation a bit more clear come the end of January. Moving on to potential incoming and the Emi Buendia potential revisiting, and Angus Kinnear confirmed this summer just gone while speaking with the Square Ball that Leeds United did approach Aston Villa to try and bring Emi Buendia to the club during the summer. Leeds were knocked back by both the club and the player at that time, with Emi Buendia keen to remain in the Premier League, and Aston Villa adamant that the player was part of their plans despite the fact that he had been out for a considerable amount of time with an ACL injury. Fast forward to now, and the situation may have changed quite dramatically for both sets of the people interested in this, with Buendia struggling for game time at Villa Park right now. Emi Buendia has only made 7 appearances for Aston Villa so far this season. He has yet to start a Premier League game for them and has no goals or assists to his name during the current campaign, with Aston Villa opting to use other options in that number 10 position so far this year, and not having as positive a year as they had last season. It's becoming a bit of a struggle for Buendia right now. Daniel Farke has also shown in the past that he will revisit a transfer if he likes the player out. Tanaka being the prime example last year, looking at him the year before, and also Glenn Kamara, where Leeds looked at him at the beginning of last transfer window and then went and made a move a second time for him to bring him in at the very end of that window. So he will go back for players if they are available and he likes the player. And Daniel Farke still wants a number 10 and refused to rule out a marquee signing when asked by Graham Smith in the press conference recently. Buendia does not want to play football in the Championship, and that's fair enough. He's done his time at this level, but a drop to Leeds in the Championship for the remaining end of the campaign. Might help with his recovery, might help with his form, and may get him back in the shop window and under Unai Emery's nose again and get him back potentially into the Aston Villa starting lineup. Daniel Farke is being tipped to try Aston Villa and Buendia again with another approach for the player, and if Leeds can't get him, then Leeds will have to look at more creative options in that number 10 position. But the player thrived under his time at Daniel Farke, and the move could be exactly what he needs to kickstart his season and could be a massive boost for Leeds United should they be in a position to try and bring him in. He would definitely add a lot more quality. It's a difficult deal to do. I think it'll be very hard for Leeds to get this one across the line. He is still part of Villa's squad, although he's played more under 21 games in the EFL Cup. It's going to be a strange situation, but he's a very good player with a lot of quality. The injury will be the question mark of, do you bring a player in who's recovering from an ACL injury? There's a reason he's not in the Villa team right now. Do you want to add that to the team, or do you want to bring in somebody who can actually have a major impact? Not saying that Buendia won't either, but yeah, worth a conversation at some point. I'm sure his name will pop up again in the next couple of weeks. And then moving on to the weekend's game, and Preston North End Leeds travel down to Deepdale, and Leeds on loan attacker Sam Greenwood will be absent from Preston's lineup for that match, as the player is not allowed to play against his parent side, and this represents a bit of a blow for Preston, as Sam Greenwood has been labelled as one of their most impactful players so far this season. Preston key strengths so far this season have been labelled as being set pieces, and more often than not, it's Sam Greenwood who's on the delivery of those set pieces. Greenwood has started 14 games so far this season for Preston, and he scored 4 goals and registered 2 direct assists. That's a goal involvement almost every other game, which is not a bad run for considering where Preston are in the league right now. Leeds away form is still a concern for the club so far this season, with only 3 away wins in 9 and sitting 8th in the away table on form. And Greenwood's absence means Preston will have to rejig their squad in order to try and have some form of an impact against Leeds United and move away from the reliance of the set plays that he has been delivering for them. There is still no update on the long-term future of Sam Greenwood, but he is expected to move away from Leeds United, and there is a £1.5 million option to buy in the current loan deal with Preston, similar to what he had last season with Middlesbrough. He's having a good time there. It looks like a likely, obvious move for the player. It's likely to be sorted out come January, but at the moment, it's a good situation for Leeds to be in going into that game. They're missing one of their key players, and definitely a player that Paul Heckingbottom has spoken very highly of and has had an impact since Heckingbottom has been at the club. And then moving on to the final story of today, and this is the Leeds adjacent news around Massimo Cellino's issues at Brescia in Italy. And I'm laughing because they're very similar to what happened at Leeds United. Former Leeds United owner Massimo Cellino is in the news again in Italy after coming under serious pressure from Brescia fans. Cellino bought Brescia Calcio after selling Leeds United in 2017 after a series of major protests from the Leeds United fan base. Now a similar issue has popped up in Italy at Brescia for the former owner, whose fans are in full revolt. In today's Corriere dello Sport, they have the detail, and they cover the former Leeds United owner's situation at the current club, when last month Brescia fans used graffiti to make their feelings known about the owner. Brescia are currently 10th in Serie B and have only won 5 of their 16 games this season, and Massimo Cellino has reacted in very Massimo Cellino ways by sacking managers, and that's become a bit of a problem for their fan base. This weekend, fans have planned a protest against Cellino by entering the stadium on the 17th minute, because the number 17 is viewed by Cellino as being superstitious and an unlucky number. We will remember during his time at Leeds United, he retired the number 17 shirt because of his views of how unlucky that number is. Unlucky for Leeds that was Michael Brown's number at the time, and he essentially retired Michael Brown's shirt at Leeds, which, when you say it like that, is crazy in its own right. In the statement, the fans pointed out that good people have stayed away from the club because of the antics of Cellino at the club. They pointed out that the club isn't equipped to challenge for promotion back into Serie A, and they claimed that it was easier for Cellino to blame others than take responsibility himself, something we've all seen at Leeds United as well. They ended this statement in a very interesting way by saying, "Don't cling to excuses if you want to run away like you did at Cagliari and Leeds. Your last call, you played it very badly." It's not going well for him. He'll never change. He clearly just continues to blame everybody else. He doesn't look at the impact of his actions and how the clubs that he's been involved with don't grow or improve during his time there. And at some point, I think he needs to point the finger straight back at himself and say, what I'm doing doesn't work anymore. But another crazy time. If you look at his time at Cagliari, he almost wrapped that club up completely. He had Leeds down to, empty swimming pools and players bringing their own packed lunches to the ground. And at Brescia, he's done something similar and seems to just have clubs that sit mid-table in the second tier of the divisions that he's managing them in, owning them in. So yeah, mad situation there, but there you go. That's your Leeds news for today. Back tonight with the match preview with stats ahead of the Preston game. A very, very important game for Leeds, especially with that away record, needing to sort that out as quick as they can. So I'll talk to you then, and then we'll have the warm-up in the morning for you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you later on. See ya. Bye.